Hey, welcome everybody. It's amazing what gets thrown away by big corporations and supermarkets and shops and stuff like that. So, today we're going to be talking to a dumpster diver who picks things for themselves to resell, to donate to charity. So, stay tuned and we'll be with you in just a second. Hey, I'm Car Boot Chris. I'm a full-time UK online reseller. I operate mainly on eBay and also Whatnot, but also some other platforms as well. I'm going to bring you regular podcasts all about reselling, hopefully to keep you company, to entertain, or maybe to educate. Who knows? Welcome to the Everything Reselling Podcast. Hello, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Everything Reselling Podcast. And today we are talking all about dumpster diving. And it's pretty much, for a while, it was like an Americanism, wasn't it? You saw it all on YouTube. There's lots of people out in the States who dumpster dive. I watch a few. And it's starting to sort of creep into the UK. And there's more and more people popping up. And why not? At the end of the day, this is stuff that's being thrown out. It's absolute waste. It's going to landfill. And there's valuable stuff in there. There's even food that people could have donated to food banks and stuff like that. But we're going to talk today to our guest, who I'm going to bring on in just a second. So a big thank you to Lynsey from Lynsey and Alvin, Drink and Dive, Dumpster Divers. Thank you very much, Lynsey, for coming on today.
You're very welcome, Chris. I am honoured to have been asked, and just sorry that Alvin couldn't come along as well. He's probably a lot more experienced with the diving than me, but
fair enough. No, I appreciate you coming on. So where is Alvin today?
Alvin had to go to a meeting today, so unfortunately he couldn't be here. But he was gutted that he couldn't come.
Okay.
And yeah, he's kind of the main. He got me into the dumpster diving, I suppose. So.
All right. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. So before we go there, let's have a little introduction, if you don't mind, Lynsey. Tell us who you are and sort of what your background is and what you do.
So I'm Lynsey, and I am half of Drink and Dive Dumpster Diving UK YouTube channel. We do a little bit of reselling as like more of a hobby at the moment. We're not quite there of getting even part-time at the moment, but we're planning to hopefully, ease ourselves in with the reselling. So that's kind of what we do. We try and make a mission of helping other people and saving really, really good stuff from going to waste and going to landfill, whether that be electronics, food, anything and everything that we can save and we can do something with, we do.
Totally. It's such a waste of stuff, a waste of money, a waste of resources, food waste as well. I've seen a lot of that, and you've probably come across that as well. If anybody wants to sort of go and look up Lynsey and Alvin, Drink and Dive Dumpster Divers, are on YouTube, and they share their dumpster diving adventures on there, as well as other things, right?
Yeah, as well as other things. Adult only streams.
So let's go back to sort of the beginning. You said earlier that Alvin got you into dumpster diving. So where did it all start then for either the pair of you or Alvin or yourself, whatever?
Well, Alvin comes from St. Lucia in the Caribbean, and over there, a lot of people don't have a lot of money all the time, and they try and make do and make toys and, out of things that they can find and things they can reuse. So he was already accustomed to that of using things that otherwise would have just been in the landfill, in the waste. So he'd already done that, and then when he came here and he was living in London before I met him, he carried on doing that. So if he'd seen people had left things out on the street, take for free and like that, he would take it and use it and fix it and either sell it or do something else with it. So and then when we met, It took him a little while, and then he started doing that. And at first, I remember thinking, "Oh my god, what are you doing? Going in the bin?" Like,
Hmm.
no. And when I started to see the things that he was bringing in, I mean, you know, we were bringing in TVs, um, with absolutely nothing wrong with them, massive TVs and
Crazy.
electronical items and just jewellery, like crazy stuff, bottles of designer perfume. It was
Yeah.
just, to me, it was eye opening to see what people are willing to just, you know, throw away. Brand new clothing still with tags on, and
Mad.
we live in a student town, so we get a lot of that, you know, designer stuff, designer perfumes and makeup that's all still brand new still. They've bought it and not used it, and when they come to leave at the end of the term, it all goes in the bin. So we find
Yeah.
that as well. It's
I
just
don't
crazy.
understand it. I can't understand this mentality of these big shops and supermarkets and places, even charity shops, you know. I can't understand why they would throw something out rather than give it to somebody or, you know, put it out on the street or put it out on a table in the shop and say, "This is free, take it."
Yeah,
I know there's, you know, sometimes with food, there can be implications like, you know, with dates and, you know, getting sued and stuff like that. I kind of get that, but come on, there's got to be a better way to get out of all this ridiculous red tape that our sort of world has become sort of entangled in, to the point where stuff has to be thrown away because if they don't, they could get sued because somebody eats something that's a day old. I mean, it is ridiculous. I remember back years ago, and this is maybe before dumpster diving was really a well-known thing, but when I worked at Marks and Spencer's, sort of, what was it now, late 90s, um, we used to donate anything left to a local, um, probably what you would call like a food bank now, but I don't know what they called them back then. I don't think they were food banks. It might have been like a homeless shelter or something like that.
yeah,
So yeah, the local shop that I worked for used to ring up this place every evening and donate all the waste. Um, and they used to come and take it away. But then one time, I believe, I mean, it's only hearsay, I'm not sure 100%, but I believe one time they complained, they made a complaint about the food or something that they'd been given as a donation, and from that point onwards, they lost the facility, and it's oh, it was so disappointing that happened. I don't know how it happened or the whys and wherefores, but that is what I believed happened. But that's kind of where we're at now in the world. It's like, you know, you can barely even donate things these days without the fear of complaints or the fear of someone getting ill or, you know, hurting themselves with something. So it's a bit mad. Can you think back to like your first time dumpster diving? What can you remember the first time you went out?
I can remember going out with Alvin for the first time, and I remember being really conscious of people are looking and being, you know, embarrassed if people are seeing us going in the bin. And it's something that if you're that type of person, and I am, you're kind of like, oh my goodness, I don't want people to look and think, oh, you know, I think the word tramp gets thrown around quite willingly when, you know, people will see you in a bin.
Wow.
We've actually had people call us tramps before, and then when they see, you know, what we've taken out of the bin, they don't quite know how to get out of what they've just said. Um, and I remembered feeling like that for a little while, and now I do it just as if it's like an everyday
Yeah.
thing that you would do anyway. And I couldn't care less what people think, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we're doing something good. We're helping the planet, even if it's in a tiny, tiny little way, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and we're helping other people because we do other stuff with the stuff that we take. So
Yeah, sure. So when you're when you find stuff like dumpster diving, what kind of things do you rescue out of the bins? And what do you do with it generally? You know, what are your options that you can do with things that you find?
There's so many options. So we find everything and anything you can think of. We've probably found something at some point. So we find food and drink. We find a lot of alcohol. A lot,
Alcohol.
lots of alcohol.
I'm sure you can make use of that.
Oh, we definitely make use of that. On our live streams, we go out. We hope every live stream we do that we can do it fully on dumpster booze, which is amazing because it's completely free. But we found 5 liters of Smirnoff vodka the other week, which was just craziness.
What?
It was nothing wrong with it, but unfortunately, with certain supermarkets, and I don't think it's like in general, for example, Tesco, every Tesco does the same thing, but the particular shop that we go to, they, if one drops out of the case and it smashes or it's damaged, rather than just take them all out and wipe them off and put them on the shelf, they'll throw the whole lot away. So, and that tends to be the same with most food and drink. If one breaks,
that's mad. But what we used to do when I worked at M&S, and if something like that happened, the stuff that was kind of wasted, or the stuff that was damaged or defaced or whatever, that not able to put on the shelves anymore, would be sold to staff at a massively reduced rate. We used to have staff sales at M&S, and they were great, those. And all the out of date stuff that was sort of taken off the shelves would be first sold to staff at a big rate of reduction. And like a meal, like a meal deal that would run out of date, that'd be like, instead of like £4, it'd be like 20p or something like that. Very, very cheap. And they'd probably do that with the alcohol as well. So why wouldn't companies do that?
I believe we had a discussion once. I think it's in one of our videos, and I can't pinpoint which one. But we one time found a load of bins full of stuff. This was before we started taking food. We were kind of new to the food side of stuff, and they all had their bins outside of Waitrose, and they were full of pies. And I mean, it could have fed so many people, but it was all gone to waste. I like that, Jeff. So we didn't take that food at that point because we were a little bit worried. We didn't know how long it'd been there, and then they stopped putting their bins out. And I'm sure it's because they don't want people to actually see, because they all harp on that they donate it, or they send these websites where you can collect and donate it out. So I'm pretty sure that's why they don't put the bins out. But I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of food that they'll throw away rather than give it to staff. And we spoke to a guy who worked in Waitrose, and we actually asked him, and he said it's because they're worried about being sued. If you got bellyache because you ate a pie that was, a day out of date, they're worried that you're going to try and sue them, which is just, I mean, they need to change the law. They need to change the law and put a disclaimer up and say, if you buy this, we hold no responsibility, because most of the time these dates they mean nothing. Meat, fish, cheese, dairy. I understand you need to be a little bit careful, but common sense is one thing. Smell and the way something looks. Also, if it's still wrapped and completely packaged and it hasn't been exposed to the dumpster. And just use your brain. I mean, we're not silly, and these dates are put on for a reason. They're put on. Best before means nothing. It doesn't.
Definitely.
So it is terrible. The other things that we find, there's electronical, there's jewelry, there's perfume and makeup, there's clothing, there's breakables, lots of vintage breakables. I have a little a lot of the charity shops throw away, breakables that they think are nothing, that actually are worth a little bit of money sometimes.
You know what makes me mad about that? Charity shops have people donate stuff to them to sell to make money. And that makes me really annoyed that they are throwing perfectly good donations in the trash, because maybe they've not got enough staff to deal with it. Maybe there's not enough volunteers, or maybe there's not enough profit in the item. But, put it on a table outside. I've had this argument and I've had, I put something out on social media about a year ago, and it went a bit crazy.
I
Put
remember.
yeah, put a table outside the charity shop, put everything on it that you're gonna put in the bin, and I reckon most of it'll go. People take it for free, have it. Rather somebody have it, use it, enjoy it, than put it in the bin and ends up in a pile of landfill somewhere. That
Yeah.
makes me mad, that.
Well, we also have a video on YouTube where we managed. We've seen them do it before, but this time we managed to catch the British Heart Foundation,
Ooh.
which is a charity shop. They're one of the worst actually for throwing away donations, and they're hugely overpriced in the shop. So it's no wonder they don't sell a lot. And we actually caught them go into the donation bins that they have. So they have like these red boxes where you can put your bags of clothing in that you're donating or other things. They emptied it and we watched them put it straight in the bin. They didn't check it. They didn't take it in to see what was in it. They just put it in the bin. And we asked
Oh,
why, and they said it was because it was moldy. So we actually opened these bags of clothing and there was nothing wrong with it. So it went in the bin for nothing. And I feel bad for people who, of heartfelt, in a way, took that stuff there thinking they're going to do a great thing for that charity.
yeah.
And little do they know, they could have just put it in their own bin at home because that's what the charity shop did.
Yeah. Yeah, that is just exasperating, isn't it? Just going over to the chat here on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now, so welcome everybody who's watching. Rosie says a lot of charity shops near me put most of the clothes people give for the ragman rather than sell it. Yeah, but at least giving it to the ragman, they do get some money back from it. I mean, it's better than nothing. Better than just putting it in the bin, isn't it? Then the ragman will obviously go through it, sell it on, or do something with it. Weigh it in or whatever. But at least that's better than throwing it away. At least they're getting something for the charity. Jeff here on YouTube did put a question in, Jeff. But let's save that for a little bit later. Jeff's asked a question about something that you've found. We'll save that question for a little bit later because I do have it on my list as well. So stay tuned for that one. Jones says, I agree, Chris. People will pay 50p to get a bargain, have a 50p table. I know. You can barely buy anything for 50p in a charity shop these days. Put it. I would even say, if you're likely to throw it out, just put it for free. Let people take it. There was a charity shop near me when we used to live in Torquay, and they did the same. They used to have an abundance of toys, kids' toys, and when they sort of ended up with too much, they put it all out on the front. They put a post on Facebook and said, "We've got too many donations at the moment, but if anybody would like to take any of this for free," and you know what? It all goes. People come and take it. Kids' toys are expensive, and a lot of them are throwaway. But if you can give a toy another lease of life for a few months, a few weeks, then why not?
I think you're completely right. I mean, a lot of people at the moment with the cost of living prices, a lot of people are struggling, and a lot of people are embarrassed to ask and to say or to ask for help or to ask for anything. So these charity shops should pick up on that, and rather than waste stuff and just put this in the bin, as you said, why not put it out on a free table? Because people are more likely
Yeah.
to just take it if they see it's for free rather than ask,
Yeah.
need help.
Yeah.
It would definitely go, but they
But
just they don't want to. They don't care.
it also creates a bit of goodwill between the community and that charity shop, because if you've got yourself something for free and you appreciate it, or your kids appreciate it, next time you're having a clear out, where are you going to go with your stuff? And some of that might be good saleable stuff, hopefully. So you're going to go to the place where they gave you some free stuff for your
Yeah,
family or your home or your kids. And that creates a good circle of goodwill, doesn't it?
100%.
Let's talk a little bit about reselling, because obviously this is the Everything Reselling Podcast, and you do a little bit of reselling,
We do.
just a little bit on the side. and these are things that you find in the bins, in the dumpsters, in the trash. So is there really money to be made from this stuff that you find in the bins? What kind of things have you found? And
There can be money. I mean, you're not always. Please don't watch like loads of YouTube channels and think, every time you go out, you're going to go and find like these massive, like banging items that are worth a fortune. And, it's just, if you're like us, you don't drive and, you just want to do it as a little bit of a hobby,
yeah,
you're not going to find like huge amounts all the time. You have to put the work and effort in to do it. You have to find out where the bins are. You have to, go constantly to check what's going to be put in there. But we found numerous items that have been worth quite a bit of money. I mean, in the few years that we've done it, I mean, we only really done eBay now for coming up about a year and a half. Before that, we'd sell things, and we still do sell things to CEX and cash
okay, yeah,
and things like that. So we find, I mean, Alvin's forever finding mobile phones, and he's very good at fixing things. So even if there's needs a new screen or something, he can do that. He can unlock a lot of phones, except for iPhones, which are a bit of a problem because most people don't remove the iCloud lock off.
Yeah,
they're a bit of an issue. But a lot of other phones he can sometimes factory reset and fix up if need be. There's lots and lots of electronic stuff. So keyboards, mouse. There's PlayStations, Xbox. So many electronic items that you can sell, especially to places like if you need quick money, CEX, cash generator, cash converters, whatever you've got by you.
You get a little bit less, but at least it's quick and you don't have to store it.
Exactly. And I mean, there's plenty of people that are out there at the moment that are struggling for a tenner to put on their electric, for example. Like if you really needed it, you can go out and find something. If you know what you're doing, take it down to CEX. Go and make yourself a quick tenner if you need to. It just takes a little bit of effort. We find loads of vintage breakables and stuff, which is a little bit of an interest more of mine than Alvin's. Alvin's a lot more with the electronic stuff. The vintage breakables, I have actually right in front of me, I have a Silvac green. He's called Harry the Hare. And we found this in a box, and it was all still wrapped in newspaper, so obviously it had just been donated to the British Heart Foundation. And we unwrapped
You can show it as if you want.
I'll show you. He's
I appreciate that people listening can't see it, but it's what
you can look him up on eBay or just online. He's called Harry the Hare, and he's in the green colour.
Okay.
He's quite ugly, to be fair, but a lot of people seem to collect them, and the last few have sold for like 60 quid. So just that little one thing is like 60 quid.
That's
and the
nice.
charity shop threw it in the bin. They didn't even unwrap it out of the newspaper that it had been donated in.
Oh, that's just crazy. So you think they didn't even look at that? They just put it in the bin?
Yeah, they've just took the donations. They didn't want to be bothered to look through it. They've just put it. We find that a lot. We find boxes of stuff that are still all wrapped in the, it's probably
exactly how it was donated in the first place.
Some older person's house maybe that maybe passed away, or you don't know the backstory, but it's like they've been given it. They couldn't take it and just didn't want to look at it, so they've just put it straight in the bin, in the box, still wrapped up. It's not good. But we will make use of it. We will take it. If we can make some money from it, we will,
Yeah.
Found a top hat. It's like a part of a drum, so it's the part of the drum that does the clangy bit, which sounds ridiculous because I don't know exactly how it works, but it's the big disc part of a drum set.
Okay.
And that sold for £120.
Nice.
We found a gold and diamond ring in a pencil case, just by luck, and we took that to a jeweller's, and it was 180 quid we got for that.
Lovely.
There's just plenty of stuff. Like you won't find stuff to resell every time you go out. You just won't. But you will every now and again. If you start looking in the right places and you put the effort in, you will find decent stuff. And you know, we know a lot of other resellers are starting to kind of go and have a look in the bins and find a different way to source. It's just
Yeah. Maybe this will be like on people's sourcing list at some point in the future, you know, a regular sourcing list, because something that I'm sure some people do, and maybe they don't recognize it as dumpster diving, but I think a lot of people perhaps rescue boxes that they can use for posting, bubble wrap, you know, void fill, stuff like that can be rescued. Um, I've actually been known to do this. I've found some boxes in bins and stuff that I've taken, but also we go to our local garden centre here, and sometimes they've got a stack that they give us, or sometimes they'll let us go in their massive. It's like a container that they use as a bin, and every now and again, when it's full up, it gets taken away and recycled and whatnot. Sometimes they let us go in there and rifle through all that cardboard and take out like boxes and stuff that I can use. And some of them are great boxes, like double wall, perfect size boxes for reselling stuff. So at least if nothing else, you could rescue some boxes quite easily.
it's a good way to start, you know, start
Getting
getting up
into the swing of it.
to do
Yeah,
it.
get into the swing of it. And you never know, there might be some boxes at the side of the bin, and while you're getting them boxes, just have a little peek inside the bin, see what's in it.
It does take guts. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, it's easy."
Yeah.
Why are you not having a look in the bin? Because I understand personally, because I felt that way. But you know, start yourself off with going to check for some boxes and bubble wrap and
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So down where you live, down in Portsmouth, isn't it?
yeah.
Is there a community of dumpster divers down there? Do you ever see anybody else dipping in the bins?
We do see other people doing it. Not very often because I think people seem to get their own little spots and they'll stick to them spots. We do occasionally come across other people, and sometimes that can be good experiences, sometimes that can be bad experiences because
Mm,
we're quite willing to share, but other people, you know, can get a little bit funny and a little bit hostile. That's their bin, even though
yeah,
it's public and so we do come across other people that do it. I
yeah,
think it's definitely growing here in the UK of people
mm,
seeing people like ourselves on YouTube and
yeah,
thinking, why not? Let's give it a try and see what we can find.
yeah. There's a few YouTubers now. I guess also the fact that you guys don't drive means that does that mean you're a little bit more limited on how often you can do it and how much you can take away from the bins?
Yeah, we are a little bit limited, and you'll see other dumpster divers here in the UK that have got a van, and you
Yeah,
know they can get around a lot more places. They've obviously got the van to carry it,
yeah,
and maybe they live in a house. I mean, we live in a one-bedroom flat. Alvin's got a bike and a trailer that we take out. Sometimes the trailer needs updating again.
mm,
So we, you know, we are limited. We carry a lot on back. We walk everywhere we go. So we do take buses, you know, to go a little bit further out sometimes and try other little areas that are close by. But if we're going to do it every day, we have to walk. We have no choice
yeah,
but to be on foot, or Alvin will go out on his bike, and it's whatever we can carry back really, and store in the flat until it's
yeah.
ready to do whatever with, whether that be resale or otherwise.
Any plans to drive in the future and, you know, maybe open up your horizons a bit as far as dumpster diving goes?
100%. We had Sophie, one of our friends, come and stay with us recently, and she's got a car, and we went out dumpster diving because she wanted to try for the first time with people who kind of knew what they were doing. So where she had the car, it was so much easier because obviously we were able to get from A to B a lot quicker, and obviously being able to put stuff in the back of a car makes it a lot easier. So it's definitely something that's on the horizon that we
Yeah.
will be looking at in the future. I don't
I
think we're
guess
quite.
from your point of view, like, if there'd be nothing worse than you go into a bin, finding a shed load of stuff that's like, "Wow, this is amazing." Like, I've seen some on YouTube, even in the UK, where they've opened a bin, they've found, hundreds of trainers or, massive TV, like you said, electronics that you can't carry, there'd be nothing worse than you having to leave that behind.
Well, funnily enough, Alvin will near on kill himself if we find really decent stuff. I mean, I actually believe there's a video where he carried a whole TV back on his head. We will get it home somehow, some way. Believe me, there is no way. Even if we have to make numerous trips backwards and forwards, we would get it back. Just because, not even through greed, because some people will say, "Oh, you're greedy, you're taking everything." Well, the likelihood is no one else is going to go and take it anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to go to landfill. But
you can't leave it behind, can you? Once you've seen it, it's like FOMO. You can't leave it.
Yeah, exactly. We would never leave it behind. We'd get it back, by hook or crook.
Yeah. Let's just pop into the YouTube live chat. RJ's World says, found a gold watch back in the 70s in a big dumpster in South London down a market called East Lane. These bins had a lot of fruit and veg. Being a kid, I dived in.
Well done, RJ.
Yeah, well done. Nice find. Let's see if we've got any more comments or questions. A comment here from the Veranda Files. Welcome. I pull a lot of stuff from trash. One of my best finds was an 80s slow cooker that sold for almost $400 on Etsy, and a Pandora annual Christmas ornament that sold at an auction for $200. Wow, they're nice finds, aren't they? Brilliant. Any other questions before we carry on? Let's have a look. And I think we are fairly up to date on the live chat, which is good. Let's just take that one off there. So, okay. Some people must be thinking, if you're diving in and out of bins, surely there's going to be some nasty stuff in there. Rats, mice, what else? I don't know. You tell me. What kinds of nasty stuff have you found? Have you ended up covered in anything?
No, we've never ended up covered in anything yet.
Okay.
I'll say yet because you never know. You will find rats every now and again. It's to be expected. They're bins at the end of the day, and rats are kind of everywhere, especially food bins. But the Tesco bin that we go to, we've never seen a rat yet. The ones that you normally find the rats in is if the bin's fairly decayed at the bottom. They can get in and out really easily. So you will find rats, and there's no point people saying, "Oh, I never find rats. I've never seen a rat." You will see them. You have to be a little bit thick-skinned. You have to, you're gonna open the bin. Sometimes there'll be smelly bags of rotten food, but you will get used to it, and it's not always that way. The majority of bins we go in are kind of really quite clean bins. They're not really, local people bins where you're getting everyone's food waste and stuff. Anyway, we've come across bottles of wee,
Oh, nice.
I don't know why people choose to pee in a bottle, but we have come across them. Not very occasionally, and one of the funniest things that we have come across was a man. Actually,
a man,
actual man,
alive,
was in the bin. Yeah, alive, sat in the bin. Like, we don't know what he was doing in there. I don't know if he was homeless. He was just trying to keep dry or warm, but he was actually. Alvin opened the bin and he was sat in there. So
got a bit of a shock there, then.
Yeah, I don't. Are we talking weird stuff that we found, or just dirty, nasty stuff?
No, go on. Give us some weird stuff then.
So Alvin actually found and it never come home with us. I just want to make that fairly clear.
Oh, okay. Come on, let's see where we're going with this one.
It was like a full size sex doll with bits and pieces that went with it. It was quite nasty. That was even put in the bin. But you do find other.
Give it a clean up. It'll be fine.
A lot of people
get a baby wipe out. There's nothing wrong with that.
We've had a lot of people say you should have took it home. It probably would have been worth money, and I'm not sure that it would.
I just got Only Fools and Horses in my head right now with the 2 blow-up dolls that go pop up at the back of the sofa. That's what
Yes,
I've got in my head now.
it's pretty much what it looked like, to be fair. Um, but it was just not common in this house, so it stayed put. One of the things that we decided not to rescue from landfill.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand that. I'm just gonna timestamp that because I can use that little clip. Um, what about sort of confrontations, whether it be shop staff, people who live at wherever the bins are, or even the police? So, have you had any of that? Because I think that is probably the thing that puts most people off going dumpster diving. So, how do you deal with that?
Again, you're going to have to develop a thick skin, or we tend to go out either early in the morning or late in the evening and choose times when there's not as many people around and shops tend to be closed, because then you're already limiting, you know, people that
Mm,
can come and bother you. Or and people will bother you occasionally. Sometimes it will be really positive and other times it will be horrific. And we've had both experiences, both which are noted on our channel.
mm.
Alvin's been physically attacked by one woman. He just
Really?
finished
Yeah.
tidying up her bin
I've seen
area.
I've seen that one, I think.
You know, all he done was tidy up her bin area, because we like to always leave it cleaner than we find it. So if we root through the bin, we always tidy up behind us, which is something that I advise anyone to do. If
Yeah.
you do choose to go and look in the bins, do not leave a mess, because this is why bins will then end up being locked and nothing will get rescued. But she actually physically attacked him for, just for tidying up her bin. She was not well, I don't think. But then we've had other people that will ask what you're doing, and then when you explain to them and you show them, they'll have a little root through as well, and they're quite,
Okay.
they're like, oh, okay, let's have a look. What's in there? So you'll get both, and then we have been approached by the police. Several times we've been approached by the police, and they will ask you, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say, oh, we've had a report. What are you doing? We'll explain to them. Sometimes we've even showed them what we have, and most of the time, well, all of the time, I don't think there's ever been one where they've said, oh, you need to go away, and not come back. They'll just say, oh, okay, crack on. Just be careful, watch that there's nothing sharp in the bin, and, don't
Yeah.
stab your hands on anything.
I mean,
Um,
surely the cops have got better things to do than either you guys just taking stuff out of a bin. I mean, you'd like to think that, most cops are not gonna be that bothered, really.
yeah. But the majority of them will like see what we've got and they'll be like, wow, that's like crazy. I can't believe so much is being thrown away. So many good things are being put in the bin. Others are not really bothered of what you've took. They're just, they're doing their job. They've been asked to come and ask you what you're doing. And as soon as you tell them and they realize you're doing nothing that's hurting anybody, they just say carry on and off they go.
The next night shift they're on, they'll be dipping their own bins at 4 in the morning.
More than likely, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's cops that are doing
That
it.
would not surprise me one bit. Because who's gonna question a cop, like, in uniform going through a bin? Could be
Yeah.
looking for evidence.
We've also been approached by a guy once because Alvin was wearing his high vis jacket, and this guy was like a little bit loopy, and he was shouting down from us from the top of the flats above where we go to the charity shop bin, and he was getting quite irate because he thought for some reason he thought we were the council at like 2 o'clock in the morning, which was just hilarious. He was like, "They're the council." Like I'm filming on a mobile phone and Alvin's digging in the bin, but apparently we were the council. I'm not sure why the council would be out at 2 o'clock in the morning digging through a charity shop bin.
Exactly, yeah.
He wasn't happy about it. So you will get people, if you do it regularly, you will come across people that will be quite idiotic about it and will not listen to what
Yeah.
you've got to say. On the other hand, there's plenty of people that, might start off a little bit funny with you, but then when you actually explain, they'll be
Yeah.
they'll be more than happy and say, wow, that's a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah. But I think that is probably the biggest obstacle for people who have thought about dumpster diving, is probably the fear of being confronted, getting in an argument, having the cops called, getting arrested for theft or whatever. So this kind of leads on nicely to my next question, which is, what is the law in regards to dumpster diving? Because it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it?
I was just about a quote, because that's what Google will tell you. You can Google it if you want, and it will actually start off with, dumpster diving is technically legal, although it is actually a grey area. So I'm going to give you what I would call our advice. I'm not going, because there's other dumpster divers on YouTube that will do completely different things to us, and
Okay.
they're well within their rights to do so. So, for example, trespassing. Trespassing is a civil matter.
Yep.
So if you were to trespass, there's not much they can really do about it, apart from, ask you to leave nicely. But at the end of the day, it's something that we choose not to do. So we stay completely on public grounds, where we've not, crossed anything that says private ever. We just don't, just because that's, we don't need any more hassle in our life to be told off. So we completely stay away from anything that would be classed as private land or trespass.
Fair enough.
The law of theft, because something that will come up quite regularly about the law is that it's stealing. And we've had numerous people try and hint that, what we do is amazing, but technically it's stealing. It's not, because if someone's thrown something in a bin, they've given up all rights of ownership to it, technically. So stealing or theft is to deprive someone of something they own permanently. So that means you've taken something from someone that they still wanted, and you've taken that away from them for good, i.e. you've stolen it, and that's theft. If someone has put something in a bin, how on earth is it stealing? Also skips are another little grey area. So skips, you need to be really careful to actually ask permission to go through a skip. And that, we do a lot of scrapping as well. So we take electronics that can't be fixed and wires and any metal that we find in the bin. We also recycle and take. But if it's in a skip, you need to ask permission. So it's really important, because that can actually be classed as theft, because the person that puts it in the skip has given up ownership to it, but they've given up ownership of it to the skip company.
Yes.
So you have to ask permission. You have to with skips. Other people might say different, but we ask permission when it comes to a skip, or if it's in someone's garden or something, you go and knock the door and you ask politely. Don't just take. Regardless, even if it's out there and it looks like they're throwing it away, you need to always ask with things like that. But if it's a bin outside the back of a shop and it's on public ground, go for it. We've never been told by the police, "Oh, you're breaking the law from what you're doing." They're really not too bothered at all, and I'm pretty sure they would pull you in if they thought you were stealing. Or,
of course, yeah. I don't think you're right. I don't think it fits the definition of theft. And as a former police officer myself, there's no way I'd be arresting somebody for bin dipping. And yeah, the definition doesn't really work. The only thing you could apply to that definition to try and say it's theft is that when it enters a bin, a council bin, it becomes a property of the council and they are thus the owners. But I think that's where the grey bit is. It's like, there's no cop going to arrest somebody on that basis and then go and find somebody. They'd then have to go and get a statement from somebody at the council at the waste centre to say the contents of that bin is ours and nobody had the right to take it. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, you'd have to be a job's worth of a cop to even bother. There's far more important things for cops to do than that.
Also, just another little note on the law, and I'm not 100% on this, but it's something we've read that the law in England is different to the law in Scotland. So
okay.
Scotland, I think, have a little bit more of a legal stance on dumpster diving in
Do they
general.
have like a specific reference to dumpster diving in their law?
We have just had this information from another dumpster diver from England who seems to know a little bit about the law, and she said that dumpster diving in Scotland, the law is different to here. So you might want to, if you are in Scotland and you want to give it a go.
In a good way or a bad way?
I think it's a little bit more against the law in Scotland to
Okay.
go in the bin than it is here. But go and have a look. Go and check out Google. Go and get your
Yeah.
information before you do it. Don't get yourself in trouble because
Yeah. I mean, do you go as far as having like a printout of the law in regards dumpster diving with you at all times in case a police officer were to stop you and you can point out? Because cops, right? I was one, right? We don't always have the ins and outs of the law on every single situation. It's impossible to fill that information into your head.
yeah,
So sometimes a cop will stop someone with a suspicion that they might be doing something wrong, but might not 100% know the ins and outs of a definition of law, because there's a definition for every single criminal offense, and there's hundreds and thousands of criminal offenses.
yeah.
So, have you ever thought about like having something on you that you can reference at any point?
We haven't actually, but it's coming from an ex-cop. It's quite a good idea to do so. I
I
think.
think it's a good idea just for that reason, is because, I mean, what if a police officer who's maybe just come out of um what would you call it, police school or whatever these days, I don't know what it is, just come out of training, and for the first time ever they've gone to a report, they're on their own, they haven't got a colleague to back them up and ask questions, they've come out to a call of somebody in the bins, and they're approached with you, and their initial thought is, well, you're stealing from the bin. And, they might not know which way the definition goes, or they might not be 100% sure. They might have pressure from supervision because they haven't got enough arrests that week. Bring them in, we'll worry about it once they're in. Could happen.
I think it's actually quite a good bit of advice, which a lot of advice that you've given us has been very good anyway. So it's kind of thanks to you that our YouTube channel went away from reselling and more into the dumpster diving side. So
I think that's something to think about because, people expect a lot of police officers. They expect police officers to know everything, and it's actually impossible to hold all that information that's in a law book. So a lot of the time you're going on gut instinct that something's not right, and then you'll try and figure out. You'll talk to colleagues. You'll get on the radio. You'll figure out what the actual offence is and whether it's been committed. And it's not as easy as what you think. It's really isn't. So me personally, I would have like a printout with the whys and wherefores and the reasons as to why it's not theft, and then that might just put somebody off, just in case there was a jobs without there.
yeah, I don't fancy being arrested.
No, oh god, no.
Although it'd make a nice viral video, I'm sure.
Oh, imagine, yeah, that'd be great. You get arrested, you earn £10 from the video. Yeah, okay, so that was that. That's the law anyway. It is a little bit grey, but come on, I mean, who's
do your
doing it?
research and just be careful.
Yeah. Do your research before you go out. In America, it's even a different law there as well, because you see a lot of dumpster divers in the States on YouTube, and I think it's much more widely accepted over there. And depending on the state, I guess. Each state has their own law as well.
Yeah.
So you said before that you mainly go out during the night or evening, early morning.
Yeah.
Is that solely to try and avoid the confrontation thing, or is there another reason for that?
It mainly is to avoid people. It's not because we don't like people. I mean, we have a YouTube channel that, we do fun lives. We love people. But you will get idiots. So we tend to try and go at times where there's going to be less chance of people approaching you, because, as I said, not every person is going to be really positive and nice and friendly. They're going to be some not very nice people, unfortunately.
I guess the bad thing though about during the night or after dark or whatever, you might get more people who are rolling out of the pubs or clubs and stuff.
We do, but the places we go, we're fairly lucky, even though they're fairly near bars and pubs, but they're a little bit out of the way of where people would tend to probably walk. So we stay away from the majority of them. And a lot of drunk people, I mean, they're just trying to stand up and keep themselves on the path half the time. You will come across the odd one idiot drunk occasionally, and we have, but it's a lot less than if you're out during the day in complete daylight where there's lots of people coming out, and we've had plenty. What are you doing? Get out the bin. You can't do this. That's theft. You're such a tramp. And it gets grating after a while, because you can only explain to some people calmly so many times before it gets a little bit irritating.
Yeah. So is there any like shops or specific companies that is a good regular haunt, for you? I mean, you don't have to give away your best local spots, but is there a specific one that, maybe across the country it could be the same?
It's the British Heart Foundation, 100% is the one where we get a lot of stuff. Also cancer research. So charity shops are they're especially good if you're starting out as well, because not everyone's going to want to go to the back of these huge companies and huge shops. So maybe start off in like your little local charity shops, because they will throw stuff away. They will throw plenty. But for us, it's definitely the British Heart Foundation. And then we've also found lots of stuff in things like Card Factory. It's dependent on where you are and your area. So I would advise, like, have a look on Google Maps, have a look around your local area, see where, firstly, where it's not gated and isn't private land, because obviously then you're going to have to kind of climb fences and possibly be trespassing, and a lot of people, if you're already a bit worried about dumpster diving, trespassing is not something you're going to want to add to that.
No.
So have a look, see where, where the bins are. If you can get a little gas key as well, you will be able to.
Yeah, because some of them are locked, aren't they?
Yeah, but just be respectful. If you are going to unlock, because it's like a little gas meter key, you can buy them.
Like a little triangular thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you can buy them online, and there's probably shops you can get them. You can open those bins, but just be respectful and make sure you keep it tidy and lock it behind you afterwards.
Because isn't it like an unwritten rule of dumpster diving that you leave the place tidier than when you found it?
For proper dumpster divers, yes. There are complete idiots that make one hell of a mess. They'll root through the bin, they'll just chuck it all on the floor, and it will just be everywhere. And we've tidied up many a mess, because we don't want to be seen as that we've just been there and then, oh, we've done that, even though we haven't. So we always tidy up. So yes, I would stress that highly. Please, if you try it, you go out tonight, for example, go and take whatever you want. Be very careful. Wear gloves. Make sure you wear gloves. Do not root through a bin. Do not just dive and jump straight in a bin. Check what you're diving into.
Yeah.
It could be glass. There could be other, really bad things in there that will hurt you. So be very careful, but always leave it cleaner than you found it. Always.
Fair enough. That makes sense, doesn't it? Just referring to the YouTube live chat, Bills and Moon says, question for Lynsey, would you ever go solo in the bins? So without Alvin?
I've actually gotten in a bin, but I was still with Alvin. That was for our 1,000 subs video. I actually got in first time ever.
I remember that one.
But would I go on my own? I'm not too sure. I'm not because I've got quite low confidence on my own, I think I might struggle a little bit.
That's understandable. I think it helps having the two of you actually, because you've got backup, haven't you?
Yeah, and obviously he's my husband, so I feel really protected when I'm out. So if we do get, I don't know how I quite deal with the people that approach really negative if it wasn't for Alvin, because I would probably get quite scared at some of them, to be honest. That's probably another tip, don't go on your own. Maybe, go out in a pair or.
Yeah. It kind of moves on to one of my last few questions is if you had any advice for new dumpster divers, somebody who's never done it before, have you got 2 or 3 like key tips, like the really like important ones? What would you say to those people?
The first one is really important, and that is to, as I said, be safe. So don't watch a YouTube video, see someone jump in the bin and just say, oh, I'm just going to jump in the bin. Even if they videoed it and you haven't seen, they would have pre-checked the bin to check there wasn't glass, needles, things that they're going to hurt themselves on. Wear decent shoes if you are going to actually physically get inside the dumpster. Don't wear just silly shoes. Make sure you wear like protective clothing. Gloves is a must. Don't root through bins without gloves on.
Yeah.
A grabber, if you're not tall enough to get in and you need to sort of get to the bottom. I've just seen Jeff has wrote that as well. So a grabber is a great idea for someone who's starting out. Always leave it cleaner than you find it. Always. So root through all you like, but tidy up after yourself and make sure you don't leave a mess, because it's not making it look good for other dumpster divers when you do.
Yeah.
Go out in pairs, because you're probably safer if you go out in at least a pair anyway, because then if anything was to happen, you could even fall in the bloody bin, I expect. You could probably fall in the bin if you're not experienced, and then who would help you get out if you haven't got someone else with you? So maybe go out in a pair, check your local area, check the Google Maps, see where is open and you're able to get to and have a look. And just have fun, and do good with the stuff that you take.
That's a good point.
Do good with it, because we give away to friends and neighbours, and if it's food, we share it around because we're not going to get through everything. If it's other stuff, by all means, we do resell it, and we're honest about that in our videos. We do resell some of it, but we give absolutely shed loads of stuff to a little independent charity called Make, because they make use out of that stuff. So we give to charity, we give back, and we help others, and we reuse stuff ourselves in our home. And so don't just take for taking's sake, but do good with it. Do something good. And just know that if you do it, you've done a little tiny part. It might only be tiny, but every little tiny bit adds up. You've done something good for the planet and stopped some great stuff from going to landfill.
Yeah, brilliant. Some good little bits of advice there, Lynsey. Thank you. So what does 2024 hold for Lynsey and Alvin, this year, as far as YouTube, reselling? Where are you going this year? Have you got any plans?
We're hoping to up the ante with eBay, with reselling. We are. I'm not sure that we'll be in a position this year to get a vehicle, although you never know. But we would like to sort of look towards getting a vehicle so that we can.
Can one of you actually drive? Have you got a
Alvin can. I'm.
Oh, okay.
But
so it's just a case of actually getting a car or a van or something.
Yes. But yeah, we're going to just try and up the ante and do better and learn more and go out and try and find different places that we can go and dumpster dive and, get more decent equipment to do our videos. It's all things of improving, our whole little journey that we're creating, with the YouTube, with the eBay, with, our lives in general.
Yeah.
And there's not things that we can talk about here, but there are good things that we know are going to happen this year for us. So we're already starting off this month
Okay.
with note. So yeah, that's
good.
it's simple, but it's just things that we're trying to better ourselves and better our lifestyle, really.
Yeah. I follow you guys, obviously. I have done right from the start on your YouTube and on your Instagram and stuff. Well, I'd like to see on your Instagram, like, putting more pictures of things that you find in the bins.
Okay.
I think that would be good. Because your Instagram is it Drink and Dive Dumpster Divers, or is it
Yes.
Lynsey and Alvin?
I think
Drink and
it's
Dive, isn't it? It's Drink and Dive because I had
drink
to
and
look
drive.
it up before. So I think it would be good, like when you're out and about, if you find anything interesting, anything valuable, or anything disgusting, any pictures like that, bang them on your Instagram. I'd love to see more of that. I think that might drive more people to follow you and thus find your YouTube as well.
We appreciate your input and your advice because, as I said, you were the one that when we first started YouTube, we kind of came to you and asked your advice. And I remember you saying, guys, like reselling is really kind of swamped on YouTube, and
Yeah.
we know you do dumpster diving, so why not do that? And I remember us being quite nervous about putting dumpster diving out there to the world. And you was like, why not? Go for it, So that's why Alvin calls you Master Chris, because Chris helped us no end.
It's only my opinion at the end of the day. It might be right, it might be wrong, but I as a follower of your channel, that was kind of my suggestion. I'd like to see more things that you find. Like, take a picture when you find it in the bin if it's something interesting, if it's something valuable, take a picture and bang it on Instagram.
Definitely a good idea, because up until now we've really only used Instagram as a tool to kind of promote YouTube, I suppose, really. So I suppose it's just another way of promoting the YouTube channel, but differently.
I think it'll be good because it's a way of promoting, but without promoting, if you know what I mean. You're posting a picture of something interesting that people might find interesting, but at the same time, you're letting people know that you're dumpster diving, and you can put in your description that you're dumpster divers, and you can find us on YouTube. So it's kind of like it's promoting, but without promoting. So when you're promoting on Instagram, you post a picture of your thumbnail for YouTube or something similar. That's promoting, but doing it this way, it's kind of a bit more interesting promoting.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it too much, of just posting a thumbnail. I do it all the time. I need to have more stuff about what's going on with reselling on my Instagram rather than just posting a thumbnail, because I think people can switch off to it.
Yeah, I definitely.
We're all guilty of it.
I think it's something that we might work on a little bit. So keep an eye out, guys. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, it'd be good to see stuff like that. So I think we're pretty much done for the podcast today. It wasn't as bad as what you thought, was it?
No, I'm quite confident with doing YouTube lives and stuff now, but the word podcast frightened the life out of me.
Fair enough.
You've made it very easy, Chris.
Nice one. I appreciate you coming on. Before you go, why don't you let everybody watching and listening know where they can find Lynsey and Alvin? Where can they find your videos and stuff?
So you will find all of our videos on YouTube, and the channel is Drink and Dive, not Drink and Drive, because lots of people get that wrong. So it's Drink and Dive, so like diving, dumpster diving UK. And the reason it's called that is because we do dumpster dive, and at the weekend we have a little drink and do a little live stream with lots of fun and laughs and jokes, and adults only 100%.
And drinking free booze that you found?
Mainly free booze. We do have to buy it sometimes if we.
You're joking. You've got to go out and buy this stuff.
I know, it's disgraceful. Disgraceful that we have to go and sometimes buy it. Not good.
Anyway, Thank you so much. It's been a really interesting chat today. I hope it's been interesting for everyone watching on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. And for everybody listening on Spotify or Apple Music or Alexa's or whatever else you want to listen on, you can listen. Feel free to download or subscribe to the podcast. That really helps us a lot. I like to see that people are listening to it. There's nothing worse than having a podcast that no one listens to. It's a bit pointless. So please do that. And then I know that people are listening and I can make more podcasts. So that's it for today. Thank you again, Lynsey. And we'll see you all on the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of the Everything Reselling Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, to follow, or to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.